Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Glenn Eli. He is CEO of Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists, so we'll learn what that is and meet Glenn when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Glenn Eli. He is a first-timer on the show. He's CEO of Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Nice
So let's talk what Connecticut's Orthopaedic Specialists is. Obviously, orthopedic is in the name. Let's talk about it.
Sure. Well, Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists is a fairly large musculoskeletal medical practice. We serve the center of the state of Connecticut for the most part, and we're a unique practice because, as the name implies, we do orthopedics, but orthopedics is a very large subspecialty within the healthcare circle, and so we see everything from pain management to sports medicine to adult reconstruction, total joints, and you know, we're out there serving a broad piece of the medical population.
Let's get a little bit more specific about what orthopedics is, the definition of it, because I think people have a misconception. You know, when they think orthopedics, they almost think like the feet, and that's it, even though obviously it's much more than that.
Of course.
And why do they think that, by the way?
Well, I'm not sure, but orthopedic really typically refers to the bone, but with the bone is muscle and ligaments, and so the contemporary utilization of orthopedics is really anything that has to do with the musculoskeletal system of the body. So, and that can be from the spine to your extremities to your feet. Pain management becomes an important piece of orthopedics. As anyone who's had an orthopedic injury knows, unfortunately, pain is typically associated with these types of injuries. Orthopedics, like other medical subspecialties, has become highly subspecialized. So you have knee specialists, foot specialists, people who only deal with the wrist. And as healthcare has become increasingly focused on preventative and then rehabilitative aspects, orthopedics plays a very broad spectrum in that total care.
Obviously, that's a good thing that you concentrate on preventative first. Let's not have it happen in the first place.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody would like that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, if you're a parent and you're the parent of a young athlete, every time that child steps on the field, you're wondering, you know, is something going to happen? And so the focus, we have a very extensive rehabilitation team with athletic trainers and physical therapists. And we spend a tremendous amount of time helping young athletes learn how to prepare for their upcoming seasons, proper stretching, proper training techniques to avoid injury, overuse syndromes. We take care of all of the Yale athletes and all the athletes at Quinnipiac University. So we see children from Pop Warner, Pee Wee, all the way up through Division I athletes.
Yeah, and you know, teaching somebody proper, I mean, this could, what you just said is also appropriate for the average person that goes to the gym. Proper stretching before and after, and also, you know, the prevention of overusing certain muscles, you know, so that they don't get injured, right? Oh
yeah, listen, you know, all of us weekend warriors still are reliving the glory days one way or the other, or trying to delay the onset of old age. Right. And so, you know, I mean, all you have to do is go to the local health clubs and see that they're full of you know, middle-aged people looking to maintain positive health. But those environments can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing and you're not using proper technique.
And the health clubs, the gyms, just allow you to go in. As long as you're paying for your membership, they'll let you do whatever you want. And if you're not using proper techniques, or just, you don't get instructed on what to do, you just go, unless you want to pay for a personal trainer.
That's right, that's right. You know, a lot of the clubs now do have trainers that are available at a certain fee. Some offer 1 or 2 sessions if you join up, but most times people are in there on their own.
Yeah.
And you know, we field a lot of questions of patients who come in beginning to experience sort of the early onsets of a strain sprain, and there's not a lot you can do for them except advise them rest, recovery, but more importantly, teach them the preventative exercises for down the road so that they can continue their activity and not create harm.
Now, when you were talking earlier about it gets subspecialized, some people deal just with knees or wrists. If I have an injury, let's say I injure my knee, I actually like, it sounds to me, I like the idea of a guy who specifically, or girl, who works on the knee because I know she's concentrating on my particular problem.
Sure.
To me, I like that. Is that a good thing?
It's a great thing. It's a great thing. You know, an orthopedist who's been fellowship trained has had 10 years of training to get to the point where they finally can stand before you and help you with your condition. And in those last 2 years, they're doing a fellowship which is specific to the area that they're concentrating in. So if it's sports medicine, it may be knees, shoulders, those types of things. And then even within the practice itself, they can focus down. So if a patient comes in with a knee condition, you're not looking at a situation where the surgeon treated a spine a minute before, an elbow. Their focus is on the knee, and they become highly subspecialized, and therefore their knowledge base just becomes that much stronger.
Again, you were talking about, you know, you kind of describing the typical person in the gym these days, maybe a middle-aged person looking to slim down or stay in shape or going through their midlife crisis or something like that. With the state of the country being the way it is, obesity and things of that sort, what you do, I mean, business is probably good, unfortunately, in that respect. Am I right?
Business is good,
yeah.
Thankfully, yes. You know, because we do a large spectrum from the young athlete all the way up to our parents who are living longer, led healthy activities, but now require joint reconstruction, total hips, total knees. So it is a busy time in the world of orthopedics.
But I mean just the state of the health of people in general. Obviously, you know, obesity is a problem. People out of shape. The food that we eat causes them to have to be in the gym in the first place. But when injuries occur, you know, have to seek out, you know, places like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we try to help people prevent injuries, but at times people show up and the damage is done.
Right.
And at that point, you know, you're really into a restorative care process. And, you know, particularly when it comes to issues with the spine, overweight creates a lot of stress on the low back. And as you know, low back is a tremendously expensive.
It's part of your core, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And likewise, hips and knees bear a tremendous amount of adverse conditions if you're out of shape or overweight. And so the best thing people can do is to maintain good quality health, proper nutrition, proper exercise, so that later on down the road you can enjoy a healthy lifestyle.
I've noticed that you probably see this too. When people in the gym, it's sort of like they're, you know, it's a desperation attempt. Oh my, they've realized that they're kind of in trouble, and that's sort of a, you know, they're attempting, not a last gasp at it, but just attempt, oh my God, I got to do something, and they do. And then they go in there without proper instruction, do something wrong, and then have to utilize your services that way too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, slow and steady wins that race.
Right.
But you know, nothing can make up for a long-term, consistent, progressive exercise program. No one got into that position
right.
Quickly, and no one's going to work their way out of it quickly.
Right.
It really is a matter of adopting a new attitude towards how they want to conduct their life.
A lifestyle change,
lifestyle
really. It's not
change.
About dieting and exercising, it's changing your lifestyle so that you almost don't, it's second nature, you don't even think about it, right?
It's really multifactorial.
Right.
It is nutrition, it is exercise, it's everything rolled into one.
And Connecticut orthopedic specialists, I'm sure, like we talked you know, about preventative things, you know, I'm sure you go in there with you know, advice and lessons on what not to do the next time. Live your life and live your lifestyle the way, a proper way.
We try. You know, we run high school clinics for athletes. You know, by the time they've gotten to the college level, that's not always as applicable. We run clinics in the evening for adults who are beginning to develop joint issues and are questioning whether or not it's an appropriate time for reconstruction. So we do a fair amount of education. One
of the great things that you were mentioning is the possibility of not having to go to the ER if an injury occurs. And I want to kind of use that as a tease because I want to go to that when we come back from the break. In the meantime, I'd like you to give a website out for Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists so people can go and learn a little bit more.
Sure, thanks, Sean. Yeah, our website is CT, as in Connecticut, -ortho, ORTHO.com. And if they come to the website, they'll see that there is an enormous amount of information, both on the preventative aspect that we talked about, as well as more information about Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists. As I said to you, we are a unique, somewhat of a hybrid healthcare delivery organization. And there's bios on all of the physicians, which each one has their own remarkable story as to how they got to where they are.
And there's a graphic up on the screen for it too. And also you're involved with social media, so if you go to the website, there'll be a link there to be able to go to Facebook and places like that too.
Absolutely, you can like us.
All right, we can like you. We like you already. Glenn Eli, the CEO of Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists. We've got a lot more to get to, so we will when we come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Glenn Eli, CEO of Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists. And as you're watching the show today, you know, sooner or later, and lots of people will discover that they need some sort of orthopedic care. Now, as it turns out, if you do need some kind of care, some kind of service, it isn't always necessary that you'll have to go to the ER for that service, is it?
Not
if you
now.
get injured.
Not now. You know, in the past, if you had an injury in the off hours, you really didn't have too many alternatives, and you ended up usually at a healthcare system's emergency room, which is really probably the least efficient place to manage these types of things. Emergency rooms are really for emergencies and life-threatening injuries.
People misuse the emergency room a lot.
It's an open door access, and it's one of the things that's caused healthcare, the cost of healthcare to escalate dramatically. But we opened up a new service line a year ago called Ortho Now, which is an orthopedic-specific walk-in centers. And we have two of them, one in Branford and one in Hamden. They're open 7 days a week. And they run from 3 to 8 in the evenings and all day Saturday, all day Sunday. The response has been phenomenal. Pediatricians who used to have to instruct mom to take the child whose elbow may have been dislocated down to the emergency room and spend 2 or 3 hours now knows that in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes they're going to be seen by a highly qualified expert. And the advent of digital radiography, being able to take a digital x-ray, send it over the internet to the physician on call where they can look and use an iPad to literally see everything that's right there as if they were in the room with them.
And now with those retina displays that those things have, it really gives it a nice sharp image too for you to really be able to make a diagnosis with.
Absolutely. The technology is tremendous. We use a company called VizTech that is a software company that allows us to communicate this. And so whether the patient's in the room next door to the x-ray suite or across town, the ability to look at these images, manipulate them, have the surgeon communicate with the physician's assistant who's seeing the patient at that time. It's really one of the remarkable utilizations of technology to improve efficiency, keep the cost of healthcare down.
So conceivably, if you can do it on an iPad, then the VizTech software should work on an iPhone too, really, right?
It works on all mobile devices.
That's great.
As well as in the office, we obviously have very large, high image capability. We have a radiologist on staff. We have 2 MRI machines, so patients who have an MRI are able to get immediate results. And there again, our radiologists can either do it remotely or do it on site.
Can you download the VizTech app right now if you wanted to, though? Oh, you can. That's great.
Yes, yes.
So that's fantastic that you can do that. And also people, once they discover, like the Ortho Now facilities, will realize that they don't, first of all, in an emergency room, you're waiting forever,
Yeah.
And like you said, there's not really necessarily a specialist depending on what's wrong with you, orthopedically, so to speak, when you go in there. So, I mean, this is, a better of so many worlds to be able to go into these facilities.
It really is. It's an optimal use of the service. Patients not only are the high priority and not the low priority as you would be in an emergency room. You're being seen by people who are specifically trained to look at orthopedic issues. If a follow-up is required, the appointment's made before the patient leaves.
Right.
They're going to be seen the next day. So if they require immediate care, one of the on-call surgeons can be there within 10-15 minutes.
I would imagine the only downside to it is top of mind for people. People are so programmed to walk into like a sort of a medical clinic or an emergency room. These type of things, the word, you know, I mean, coming on this show helps get the word out, but
Sure.
it's a slow, steady, I mean, people aren't thinking about it.
It is. It's required a tremendous amount of marketing, quite frankly, to let people know that there is a new option out there. But the whole state of the healthcare and the delivery of healthcare is in an evolutionary, time, and so people are more open to a different way of things being delivered and different services.
And obviously, the insurance companies are on board with this too, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it cheaper for them?
certainly is. The difference between paying for an office visit and having to pay for a hospital level service. And most insurance towns, many people are now self-insured on some level. So it's literally their dollar that they're spending.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and open up the big can of worms, and that is, let's continue on with healthcare. And you, as someone who is CEO of Connecticut Orthopaedic Specialists, has to deal with this sort of thing every day. And as we sit here and tape the show, we're coming up. It's election. It's an election year. So does it? Are you concerned, or does it matter to you, depending on who is president in the next term, how the health care and what direction it goes, and what are your thoughts on health care in general?
It's a great question, Sean. I don't think it really will matter who's the next president.
Right.
If President Obama maintains his position or if Mr. Romney is elected. Obviously, the state of the United States healthcare system and delivery system has to change. It cannot continue on the course that it's at. We have a phenomenal healthcare delivery system, but it's too expensive. There are too many inefficiencies. And Mr. Obama has tried to discover and legislate new ways that can be done. And obviously change is controversial. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with everything that's in that healthcare bill, but a lot of it is necessary. And so as the manager of a large healthcare organization, change is coming. You're working to anticipate those changes and prepare for them, but you don't really know what form those changes are going to come in quite yet. The analogy that I've used is that we know there's a hurricane and the Jersey Shore is getting battered, but here in New London it's a beautiful sunny day, but we know things are going to change.
Yeah.
It's coming. So we have tried very hard to prepare and anticipate. Cost containment's obviously going to be a major component of how this new system is going to be rolled out. People have a high expectation for quality of care. There's expectations. The immediacy of Ortho Now speaks to that. And yet people don't want to continue to pay 10, 15, 20% more for their healthcare premium. So where does that cross?
What's causing the skyrocketing healthcare costs? I'm sure it's a multitude of things, but is there something major, something specific?
It's hard to put your finger on any one thing. Obviously, we're living longer.
Right.
Technology.
Shouldn't that make it easier, better, more efficient? So
it should.
Granted, so therefore less expensive?
It should, but technology is expensive and the development of technology is expensive. You only have to turn on TV to see a pharmaceutical ad every few minutes.
Right.
So everything that is involved in the delivery of healthcare, the costs have increased, with the exception, quite frankly, of how physicians are compensated.
And then there's lawsuit, lawyers getting involved, and insurance for that.
Malpractice is certainly a piece of the puzzle, but it's a relatively small one. In some segments of the healthcare system, it's greater. It influences the piece that the physician has to consider in terms of tests. You don't want to miss something because it'll come back at you. So there is, sort of a tendency maybe to over-test to make sure that you've covered all your bases. But, really the cost of healthcare is being driven by so many different factors.
Would one of those big things be the health of the individual and their maybe lack or inability to take care of themselves preventatively, so that you're not in utilizing your services or somebody else's more often?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is one
Taking
of the
responsibility, people.
This is one of the tenets of Obamacare, is that he wants to take a lot of people who are not currently insured and who are living outside the system and who don't enter the system until there is a tremendous acuity to their issue.
Right.
And his interest is to try to turn that around and become more preventative. The problem is bringing in millions of people into the system, and who's going to pay for it, and that's where you have this discussion going on.
How do you compare our health care with other countries are brought up a lot as a comparison to ours?
They are, and I always find it to be an unfair comparison because lifestyles and all are very different. Expectations are different. The technology and the delivery of care in this country is second to none. Drawing comparatives between the Parisian healthcare delivery system and what you're getting here in New Haven, Connecticut is a very difficult line to draw.
Yeah. You mentioned the pharmaceutical companies, and this is mentioned a lot too. People who kind of are suspicious of them say it's in the pharmaceutical country's best interest, financial interest, to sort of have you treat the pain and not the root cause of the problem, because it kind of keeps them in business.
So these pharmaceutical companies are big business.
Yep.
It's big business, and their marketing and advertising campaigns are very effective. It's not the least bit unusual for patients to come in with a list of medications that they request that they are prescribed. And so, a physician can find themselves in an awkward position of wanting to satisfy a patient's interest in demand and doing ultimately what's the right thing for the patient. And
which might be getting off some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we are almost out of time, so I want to give you the opportunity one more time to mention the website for people to go and learn more about Connecticut Orthopedic Specialists.
Sean, thanks for this opportunity. It's Connecticut Orthopedic Specialists, and we're focused out of the center of the state of Connecticut. Our website is ct-ortho.com, and I really would encourage people to take a look at this website and to see the multitude of services that we're offering here and the unique way that we're delivering musculoskeletal care.
Glenn Eli, CEO of Connecticut Orthopedic Specialists, thanks. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.